Hello everyone. So by the time that you are watching this presentation, you will have worked through all of the unit content in this module, and you'll hopefully have an appreciation by now of how broad and diverse and complex wellbeing at work is, both in terms of research and theory, but also in practice. So in this short presentation today, I'm just going to give you an introduction into what we're looking for the assignment for this module. So a little reminder of all the areas we've covered in this module. We've looked at work-related stress, we've looked at work-life balance, we've looked at career development and counselling, we've looked at positive psychology, conflict and bullying, and equality and diversity. So that's a really broad range of topics for one module, and that's because well-being at work is incredibly broad and it's incredibly complex. And if you haven't got that by now, I really strongly recommend that you go back and listen to all of my introductory lectures again, because I've said it time and time again, and you'll know that from both being in business yourself and also having done your studies. So the assessment question for this, you have 3,000 words to critically appraise the following statement. Managing well-being at work is simple, you just need to reduce employee stress levels. So as I mentioned in the first introductory presentation for this module, in this assignment I'm looking for you to integrate topics from across the module. So the statement that you're being asked to critically appraise mentions stress, but don't forget that work-related stress is a concept that's popped up in every single unit during this module. And I'm looking for you to show the marker that you understand that stress is not a standalone phenomenon and that it's linked to all of the topics that we've covered so far. So the real detail of the assessment criteria are on the next slide, and there's also a PDF up on Blackboard for you. But I'm just going to talk a little bit of detail of what I'm looking for when I talk about each of these assessment criteria. So the first one is demonstrates evidence-based understanding of the complexities and breadth of well-being at work. So as I've said many times in this presentation alone, well-being at work is a broad and a complex area. So what I'm looking for here is for you to show the marker using up-to-date research evidence why and how you understand that this is the case and what that means practically for managing stress at work. Next up, we have critically evaluates theory and research regarding managing stress in the workplace. So here I'm looking for you to really critically appraise the theory and research that we've covered in some of the areas in this module. So what do theories say about reducing stress at work? And does the evidence support the theories? And if not, why not? Is the evidence of good quality, or perhaps research in that area still has a long way to go, and so on and so forth. Thirdly, discusses practical challenges relating to prevention and management of work-related stress. So this links back to the practice points in the PDFs for each of the units. But I'm also looking for you to show that you're thinking independently, as would be required of you as a practicing business or occupational psychologist. So in reality, how easy would it be for you to implement an intervention or a prevention relating to work-related stress in a business? And how does this link to what the research and theory suggests we should be doing? Finally, the essay needs to be appropriately structured with clear English, appropriate referencing, and a balanced coverage of all required elements. So as always, the markers will be looking for a clear, coherent, and professional presentation in line with appropriate referencing. So on Blackboard, you'll find a link to this assessment criteria matrix, which should help guide you in terms of what exactly the markers are looking for. Now, I'd really strongly encourage you to take a good look at this before you start writing your essay, midway through, and then also again at the end, because if you look carefully, you'll see that we've effectively told you how you can score really highly on this assessment. And even more than that, because we're wonderful, I'm also going to give you some hints and tips around how you can do really well on this assignment. So firstly, stress is an outcome, and we've covered this in quite a lot of detail at the beginning of the work-related stress unit. So if that's not ringing huge amounts of bells, I'd really strongly advise that you go back and revisit the start of that unit. So it's an outcome of interactions between a person and an environment, and so for this reason, it relates to all areas of the workplace. So make links across units. You must show assessors that you've engaged with material across the whole module. Obviously, you've only got 3,000 words, and I'm not expecting you to cover every unit or every unit in great detail, but just covering one or two areas that we've covered in the units is not enough. So, for example, relating to the first assessment criteria, which is about being evidence-based understanding of the complexities and breadth of wellbeing at work, you might want to introduce a range of concepts at the start of your essay, so maybe 5 or 6 different concepts to show that you understand the breadth of the area. And then regarding depth of the area, you could focus on 3 or 4 key areas and make links between them in the main body of your essay. But that's just a suggestion. You might want to approach it in any number of different ways. I've asked you to refer to and critique theory, so it's really important that you approach this assignment with a critical viewpoint. So is a given theory supported by the research literature, and does that bear out in practice? Show me that you understand the limits to literature and what this is being done in reality. So maybe a theory says one thing and that's fine and dandy, but in reality that's just not going to work in practice, and why is that? Linked to that, you must support your answer with empirical research from up-to-date, quality, peer-reviewed journal articles to support your answer. So these are available via library databases. Provide an up-to-date debate of the research literature. Now, I've given you some key readings to get you started, but don't just rely on those. I'm looking for you to do much broader reading than just those key readings. Next up, I'm looking for evidence that you've gone beyond surface level learning on this module. So I don't want exactly what's in the unit content just regurgitated back to me. And how you approach this assignment in terms of structure is totally up to you. So some people will choose to look across lots of different areas, others may only want to look at 3 or 4 in more depth, and that's absolutely fine. Really importantly, there is not just one correct structure or one answer that I'm looking for, although I am, importantly, looking for a minimum of 3 areas of wellbeing at work to be covered. Just ensure that however you choose to approach the assignment, you can refer back carefully to these hints and tips and the assessment criteria. If you have any questions on this, there's a designated Blackboard discussion forum for the assignment where you can speak to each other and speak to the tutors on this module, or you can drop me an email at any time. Best of luck!